Welcome to the Green Urbanist podcast, where we explore sustainable placemaking, climate action in cities, and urban rewilding. I'm your host, Ross O'Kelly, an urban designer, educator, and sustainable placemaking consultant. Hello everyone, good to be back with another episode. I know it's been quiet on the Green Urbanist podcast over the summer. I've taken a step back just to work on some other things, take a break from the podcast. Been a few episodes here and there, but not much happening. So thanks for your patience. I hope you all had a nice summer, wherever you are in the world. And the reason I took a step back is because I was largely working on getting one project off the ground, which is called the Urban Wilding Hub. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. So excuse me if this is a little bit unscripted, a little bit off the cuff. I'm kind of doing a lot of communications about this today. I've just sent out a newsletter. There's lots of stuff happening on LinkedIn. I'm setting up Instagram and TikTok profiles, and I'm sort of getting myself geared up to start talking about the Urban Wilding Hub a lot. So if you're following me in any way on social media or my newsletter, you'll be hearing more and more about this. But I just want to take a chance in this episode just to talk directly to Green Urbanist listeners, to you out there, and tell you a bit about this project, because I think you'll be probably really interested in it, hopefully. If you're anything like me and you're into the kind of topics that we talk about on the podcast, I'm sure you'll be interested in this, and you might even be able to get involved or share it with someone who it will be relevant for. So those of you who have been following the podcast over time will know that I am very, very shall we say, obsessed, more and more becoming obsessed with urban rewilding, with bringing rewilding principles, which are largely applied in large rural landscapes, into the urban context, in and around towns and cities, and exploring what that means, the benefits that could bring, maybe the challenges we have to overcome, and just really thinking a lot about celebrating the projects that are happening, and learning from them, and wanting to see more and more of that happening. About this time last year, I started a process of researching and trying to understand how do ideas like urban rewilding, which is a very niche, uncommon kind of a bit sidelined as an idea. It's something that's just happening in pockets. There's a couple of places that are embracing it, but largely I would say the average person doesn't interact with wild spaces very much in towns and cities. The average person wouldn't necessarily know very much about rewilding at all, possibly, but certainly not in an urban sense, or think that it could be applied in their neighborhood or in their city. So it's quite a new idea. It's like a kind of an offshoot of the wider rewilding movement. But it is happening. Places like London is a real kind of front runner of that. I've had a number of people on the podcast who've been involved in projects in London, like beaver reintroductions, or simply reducing the management of spaces so that urban parks and urban green spaces can grow a bit wilder, and that has lots of benefits for all sorts of biodiversity. And then we can see this stuff happening, we'll say, in Paris. They're not necessarily called it rewilding, but what they're doing is they're removing a lot of hard surfaces, pavement, roads, and replacing them with vegetation. And that is a form of wilding as well, just on a slightly different approach, and maybe they're using different wording around it. And then there's also sort of quiet examples that maybe don't necessarily, maybe aren't even necessarily planned. These are just areas that have been abandoned for a long period of time, and they've ended up going through this process of succession, maybe becoming grassland habitat and then moving into becoming a forest, a young forest, on their way to becoming a mature woodland. And those have become real hotspots of biodiversity. Example again from London, the Bethlem Green Nature Reserve, which I've spoken about in a previous episode. I did a bit of research for them about climate adaptation on the reserve. It's just a little pocket site of dense forest, dense woodland in the heart of East London that is essentially a rewilded site, although it's more because of human abandonment and neglect rather than a purposeful process of rewilding. But it's a space that now harbours all sorts of biodiversity, and it's an amazing resource for community, and they have forest school there, and they have volunteering. I've done volunteering there, and it's a wonderful space. So there's this sort of range of different approaches to rewilding that we can take inspiration from, that we can look to. But they're all sort of happening in isolation, and they don't necessarily all know about each other, and they're not able to sort of access the learnings that have come from each project. So one of the things that I want to do with the Urban Wilding Hub is to actually address this gap, and to actually be an online home, literally a hub, that's why it's called a hub, to bring together the urban wilding community, people who are involved in projects, people who want to be leading urban wilding projects, or who want to be advocating for it, doing research in it, and pushing forward this movement. A place where those people can come together and start to learn from each other, start to make connections, maybe collaborate, share resources, share opportunities. That's kind of step one. And then I have a long-term vision for this to grow into an organization that can perhaps address funding gaps, stimulate funding for urban wilding projects, can maybe publish guidance, put together best practice guidance and standards, so that people can really deliver, the best possible projects that they can, and that we have sort of criteria that we can hold ourselves accountable to. So these are all things that will come in the future, but we're really starting off with this idea of, let's create a community, let's have a place where people can come together, and then we'll figure out how best to serve those people, the urban wilders out there. Geographically, I'm already looking at a kind of ridiculously ambitious scale, in that I want this to operate across Europe. So if you're in the US, if you're in Australia, I know there's great things happening there as well. This isn't necessarily the place for you, I'm sorry for that, but to do this on a global level, I think would just spread it far too thinly. When I say Europe, I'm talking about that broadly. It's kind of difficult to draw the boundaries of Europe, like what is in, what's out. So I'm just going with the EU, the UK, and Schengen area. So what that means is, for people who are, I suppose the first call to action is that for people who are involved in urban wilding projects, or people who are interested in the topic and who want to push that forward in their local area, maybe people who are part of community groups or are part of local authorities, and they really want to promote this, but it's not yet happening. You're the people I want to meet, I want to come together, and I'm sort of creating this platform for. So the first step is, there's a link in the episode description, which is a link to the Wilding Partners program. So that's our sort of first program that we're starting with, Wilding Partners, and you can just fill out a short Google form that just asks you a few questions about yourself. And unless you clearly have absolutely no connection or interest in urban wilding, like, you will get in. It's not a difficult test. It's just to put in a little bit of gatekeeping, so we don't end up with people in the community who probably shouldn't be there, or are just there to kind of make trouble. So it's a safe space, it's a slightly controlled space. And that's very intentional, because we want this to be the right people in the digital room together, having the right conversations, bringing positive energy, bringing a solutions mindset, and really working to push things forward. Now, if you're not sort of in that group, if you're just generally interested in rewilding, but you're not sort of linked to any projects or particular advocacy or research, I will be doing public-facing communications and learning materials and case studies. So you will still have access to learnings that are going on. It's just more of a broadcast kind of scale. So the other thing that the Urban Wilding Hub will seek to do, and we're starting to build up, is a knowledge hub on our website. So that will be a place where we kind of centralize the information, the knowledge, the lessons learned, case studies from across practitioners, academia, and sort of popular media as well, things like YouTube, podcasts, etc. And just try to bring things together so people have a one-stop shop, like one place that they can go to access, I won't say all, it will never be comprehensive, but we'll say, as much information about urban wilding as we can kind of bring together in one place. Because at the moment it's very scattered. You can, you can do research on scientific journals, and you'll find lots of interesting, a couple of interesting articles. There's not loads written about it, but there is some researchers who are really like tackling this issue and, doing the fundamental work of actually defining it. What does it mean? What are the processes involved, etc. You can look to the broader rewilding movement in places like Rewilding Britain, Rewilding Europe, and the IUCN has just released new guidelines for rewilding. And so there's a lot more in the sort of broader rewilding movement. But then you have to do a process of translation to translating that into the urban environment, where there's a lot more complexity, there's a lot more stakeholders, it's a very specific context working within or around urban areas. And so, if you don't come from a background of we'll say urbanism, urban planning, community engagement, like that can be a lot of new stuff to learn as well. So this is really what we're doing, is saying this is quite a specific context. Let's try and bring all the learnings, the lessons, case studies into one place, so that when people want to learn about this, when they want to pursue their own projects, they have a place they can come to. So on that, I would say jump on our newsletter list. So I'm starting a new separate newsletter, separate to the Green Urbanist newsletter, which will be a newsletter list for the Urban Wilding Hub. You can access that on the website, which is urbanwildinghub.com. And that's where we'll be, every once in a while, probably monthly, sending out a big email with a roundup of articles, resources, stuff we've published, so that you have quick access to that. Lots of inspiring stories. And I'm hoping this would be, something that you look forward to landing in your inbox every month, and really getting a lot of benefit from it. We will probably occasionally do more frequent emails as well, just to tell you about particular campaigns we're running, tell you about something particularly exciting that's going on, or about our fundraising activities. Another way you can get involved with the Urban Wilding Hub is actually volunteering some of your time. So we will have, I'm growing this really as an individual right now, and then I'm collaborating, bringing in partners and collaborators. But there's no startup money. There's, no wages being paid yet. I want that to change soon, going into the future, as we start to, actually start our fundraising. But volunteers, I think, and people who are passionate and who want to do this, for their own, I suppose, personal enrichment, I think will hopefully play a big part in this going forward. And things that you can do that you might be interested in doing for us is maybe writing articles. So there is, we can start to fill up the knowledge hub with original articles. So these could be case studies of urban wilding projects, or explanations of techniques and practices, or maybe some research translated into plain English so people can understand some of the complexities. So if that's something you're interested in, I'd love to hear from you. There's a contact form, link to a contact form in the episode description. Do get in touch. Other things we could definitely use help with is managing social media. If you like doing Instagram, TikTok posts, if you like creating visuals, and I can get you set up on Canva and help you sort of get working with that. And it could be a good bit of experience that you can then put on your CV and bring somewhere else. Other things you could help with is actually helping us to run events. So one of the main thing we'll be doing over the next couple of months with the Wilding Partners program is running webinars and online meetings and get-togethers, so that this group of people in the Wilding Hub, the Wilding Partners, have regular opportunities to come together. And so there's a bit of organization that goes on around that, from sort of creating Zoom meetings, helping with emails, being there in the room, and you obviously then get a real inside look at what is happening in lots of different urban wilding projects, what people are learning about. So that, if volunteering a little bit of your time might be an opportunity to sort of get in with the Wilding Partners group as a volunteer, if you're not, involved in a project and would qualify in that way. Now, possibly finally, unless I think of anything else to tell you about right now, is the other thing we're starting with on this launch is we don't really know how many urban wilding projects there are across Europe. Nobody has sort of collated all of that into one place. So what we're doing is we're crowdsourcing the first map of urban wilding projects across Europe. So there's a page on the website. It's urbanwildinghub.com/map. Link is in the episode description. You can go there, and there's an interactive map there that you can pan around and search. There's already a couple of projects on there, which is really great to see. But we know there's a lot more out there. So we want people who know about projects, who are involved in projects, to go and to add their project. So you'll see when you go there, it will make sense. There's some instructions. You can click a little button on the map that says add a point, and then you can click where your project site is, and then you can fill out some information and tell us the name of the project, a description about what you're doing, a link to a website, an email address if you want people to get in touch, etc. So what we want to do is really populate this over the next couple of months, get people sharing it with people who are involved with projects, and really start to get a sense of like the state of the art. Like what is, how much wilding in urban areas is currently happening across Europe? What are some standout projects? What are projects that we can learn from? And it's also a helpful resource for people to just go and see what projects are happening near them if they want to get involved with volunteering, or maybe for corporates, if they have money they want to spend to fund local nature-based projects. This is a resource for them to go and find local projects. So we can see a lot of benefit from creating this map. But I really want this to be like a community project. I want people to go on and to add their projects. And it's also a way to help those people find out about us. So please, 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 if you know anyone, or if you're involved in a project yourself, but particularly if you know someone else, send it on to them. So check out the website, the webpage with the map, and you can send it over directly to anyone who might be relevant and who might be able to add their own project. And it would be great to see that and to connect with them in that way. Okay, I appreciate there's like a number of call to actions there, but I just wanted to give people multiple entry points so that depending on, you know, your background, your interests, where you are in your journey, like there's lots of opportunity for you to interact with the Urban Wilding Hub. And the more people we can get, you know, working on this and contributing, the better, really. And that takes us on to what is the future of Green Urbanist? I have sort of find myself with less and less time to give towards the podcast. I really love the podcast, and I have missed it over the summer, actually. So I think I will, if I can find some time, I will try and record a few episodes, maybe get a few interviews in, because it is fantastic. But ultimately, it is a sort of basically a hobby. So it's something that kind of is related to, you know, it is related to the work I do as a freelancer. It's very much related to the work I'll be doing with the Urban Wilding Hub. But the podcast itself doesn't really, you know, make any money. So when it comes to times when I'm quite busy doing other stuff, it's kind of easy to let that fall by the wayside. So unless I come up with a much better business plan for the podcast, which believe me, I am thinking about, there probably will be a bit fewer episodes than maybe there has been in the past. But I'd like to sort of keep this up. I feel quite attached to this branding, the Green Urbanist. That's sort of my own personal brand, I guess. The newsletter, the Green Urbanist newsletter, which is on Substack, is still like quite active. I'm still sending out newsletters and articles every week or two. So if you want to, you know, keep in touch in that way and still get a bit of content from me, stay in touch and hear about what I'm doing. Also, like new tools or resources that I'm putting out. Really, the newsletter is a better place for that. So I'd love to see you there. Link to that is always in the episode description. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can jump on the newsletter list for free. I am also considering, I actually would really, really love to start a new podcast for the Urban Wilding Hub where I just interview people who are involved in projects. So that's where we sort of get this sort of nice feedback loop of people joining the Wilding Partners program, getting support, but then also getting a platform so that they can sort of tell their story and share their lessons learned from their projects to a wide audience. Hopefully that then helps them to attract, you know, attention and funding and volunteers and everything else into their own project. So I think that could be a very, very nice addition to the Urban Wilding Hub. If I do launch that, what I'll do is I'll probably like cross-post a couple of episodes onto Green Urbanist to sort of let you know that's happening, invite you to go and subscribe to that as another podcast. So we'll see how that goes. You'll see if that in the next couple of months, if that comes to fruition from looking at the feed here. All right, guys, that is it for this week. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate your time. I hope you're excited about the idea of cities becoming wilder for the benefit of people, for climate resilience, for boosting biodiversity. I think there's so much potential that is relatively untapped in this area. So yeah, come join us on the journey, get involved in some way. Check out all the links in the description. Get to the website urbanwildinghub.com, and I will speak to you soon. Cheers.